daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael Grahamslaw and today we have a really exciting episode for you as we review Newcastle United's biggest win of the season so far, the next round of the Carabao Cup, and we break down ahead of this weekend's clash. Newcastle's best 11, or current best 11 should I say, versus Arsenal's current best 11, and we'll see who comes out on top. So, to begin, let's talk Wednesday night. Newcastle United 4, Bradford City 1 in the Carabao Cup. Goals, passion, great away support, and some proper finishes. And this is a little reminder that yes, this Newcastle United side still has serious domestic cup ambitions, despite winning the League Cup last season and being in the Champions League this year. There was 7 changes from the draw against Bournemouth, but I did see something on social media where a lot of people were actually saying that this 11 was closer to our strongest 11 than the Bournemouth game. Ramsdale, Sven Botman, Malik Chow, Lewis Hall, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Anthony Gordon, Antti Elanga, all being in Newcastle United's best 11. Be interested to see what you think about that in the comments. Let me know. Personally, I think we might be seeing that at the end of the season, but right now, the centre-back partnership, I know Cher's currently out with concussion, but the centre-back partnership of Dan Burn and Fabian Cher, that's the trusted centre-back partnership that'll get us through a lot, while Botman and Chow might be better. They're not quite as trusted, and I think that's the case for a few areas around the pitch. But yeah, overall, a strong, professional performance and lineup against a Bradford side that brought nearly 5,000 fans and put up a real fight. So let's break it all down. I know we were probably all thinking before kickoff, 7 changes, Bradford are top of League One, we've rotated. It could actually be a tricky game, a bit of a banana skin, but Bradford came in with a few changes as well. They did start the game bright in the first minute. Brad Halliday, a lad from Redcar actually, who used to be in our youth ranks, stung Ramsdale's gloves with a low shot, but I'll be honest, that was about as nervy as it got until Andy Cook's goal late in the second half. Once Joe Linton opened the scoring from about the 17th minute, it kind of felt like game over because you knew that Newcastle would then start to up the ante, get into the gears, and the Bradford game plan had to change. But let's talk about the goals. Joe Linton, who hasn't scored in about 9 months, picks up the ball after Anthony Gordon's shot is blocked. Another scuffed shot from Anthony Gordon, but this one does look like it was going on target into the side netting, but hits the defender. Joe Linton picks it up and he calmly buries it into the opposite corner. Not a typical Joe Linton effort, but when you think about it, how many goals does he score when he just calms himself down and just places the ball in the back of the net? The Nottingham Forest one last season is one that comes to mind. It might actually be his last goal for us. But yeah, when Joey calms things down, actually not a bad finisher. And who would have thought would be saying that when he was missing 20 chances a season up top for us? But yeah, 2 minutes later, bang. Osula makes it 2-0. Bruno threads arguably one of the most perfect through balls I've seen since Joe Willock against Spurs. And Osula just tucks it away. Ice cold. Second goal for him of the season, and he didn't stop there. It realistically could have been 3 or 4 before half-time. Osula, Gordon, Bruno all forced the keeper into saves. I think you've got to credit Sam Walker in the goal for Bradford. He kept the score very respectable in that first half when Newcastle were pushing for a third. It could have easily have been 4-5-0 at half-time. But he put in an absolutely fantastic performance for Bradford, so big credit to him. But then when it did get to half-time, as a Newcastle fan, I think we're all thinking, right, job's half done now, but we need to get that third. And just get some of the big names off because there was some strong challenges going in there from Bradford in the first half. The last thing you need is Bruno going off injured. And thankfully, that didn't happen. But what did happen was Newcastle controlled the game. We tightened the screws a little bit. We weren't as creative. We weren't trying to play free-flowing football, but we just controlled the game, a bit like Barcelona did when in the added time against us. Just a little bit less, desperate towards the end of the game. But yeah, we kept control of it. Eventually, Joe Linton got his second. It's another tidy finish. Picks it up in the centre of the box and just knocks it, not even in the corner, really, just low and close to the goalkeeper, so he can't get any of it. But it comes after some brilliant hold-up play from Bruno Guimaraes. Takes the ball into the box, holds it up, has 2 or 3 players around him, and he just slots it in between 2 players to Joe Linton and buries it home. That's Joe Linton's 6th goal in the Carabao Cup as well, and genuinely I think he'll be coming up close to having more goals in the Carabao Cup than he has in the Premier League. This is his competition, definitely. And then we got maybe the nicest moment of the game, even as a Newcastle fan. Andy Cook, 34 years old, Newcastle fan, struggled with an ACL injury recently. He just leathers one in from the edge of the box, in off the bar. That's a dream moment for him. And to be honest, how many of us, when we were little, had dreams of just burying the ball in the back of the net? Typically, we have a black and white shirt on, but credit to him. It's an absolutely fantastic goal, and he'll be talking about it forever. However, I know I'm not going to mention the handball. Wink, wink. It is a loose pass from Lewis Miley that causes the problem again for Newcastle. And it wasn't the first time that had happened in the game. But less about that. It's a special moment for Andy Cook. Can't take anything away from him. Brilliant strike. But what is it about us giving fellow Geordies who play in the lower leagues their moment at St. James's Park? First Joe Ironside and now this? At least this one didn't cost us, eh? But yeah, a great moment. But just as Bradford got their sniff in the game, Asula popped up again with a tap in to seal it. 4-1. It was some good link-up play by Voltemada and Harvey Barnes, the latter of which putting in a delightful cross to the back post. Asula, I've criticised his lack of striker's instinct in the past, but he shows a great bit there to get in front of the defender and tap it home. So, well in, son. That's been my primary complaint. I'm very happy with that goal. You keep that up. Maybe I'll be saying we should start Voltemada behind you instead of you. Because everyone knows Eddie Howe's going to listen to that. But what does it actually mean? It means we're in the last 16 of the Carabao Cup. Feels weird playing one game and being in the last 16. Guess this is what being a top side feels like. We are going to face Tottenham at home in the next leg. That is a big game. They tend to love cup competitions themselves, but never end up winning them, really. I sound a bit cocky for someone that supports a club that's won one trophy in 80 years. But Spurs, that do tend to get to semi-finals, etc., but just can't grasp the trophy, is what I meant by that. But yeah, you look at this performance and you kind of get the feeling, the belief that we can do it again. And I know it was just Bradford. Playing Spurs is a much tougher task. One that it'll be difficult to overcome, but in past years, Newcastle under the likes of Pardew, Houghton, Rafa Benitez, we scraped past them probably. But more often than not, we lost against lower league opposition. So to end that 70-year wait for silverware last season, then come straight in with a win this year, the hunger isn't gone, and it's really, really positive to see. The fans want more, the team want more, and we might just get more. But from now, all we're going to get is our first advert of the evening from Bionique.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Okay, so now we're going to go into a combined Arsenal and Newcastle 11. I've put both teams in the 4-3-3 formation. I know Newcastle will probably go 5 at the back again, but just for the sake of comparison, 4-3-3 works a lot better for this because both teams typically play it regularly. But let's get straight into it. So starting with Newcastle, I'll give the 11 that I'm going to play through. In goal, it's going to be Nick Pope. Back four, I think it's going to be Trippier, Botman, Burn, and Livramento. I think it will be a 5, obviously, myself, but the back four, Botman gets in there ahead of Chow for me, even though Howe does like to play one left, one right-footed. Midfield 3, right itself, Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, and Sandro Tonali. And then a front 3, I think it will be Murphy, Voltamara, and Gordon that start. So, again, it's who I think would start if we were going 4-3-3. Don't think we will. Feel free to disagree in the comments. I know not everyone's going to be on board with the back line, but that's what makes football fun. It's opinions. Let's not shout at people for having opinions, even if you don't agree, because I love a good old debate. But now switching to Arsenal. In goal, you've got David Raya. The back four will be Jurien Timber, William Saliba, Gabriel, and Ricardo Calafiori. In midfield, they've got ex-Newcastle player Mikel Merino, Martin Zubimendi, and Declan Rice. And then a front 3, Bukayo Saka will return. Victor Gyökeres will play up front. And on the left, I do believe they'll go with Eberechi Eze. I'm hoping they don't, but they probably will. But yeah, when you look at that Arsenal 11, there's a lot to admire there, isn't there? Raya, he might not be the best shot stopper, but he brings calmness at the back and great distribution, unless Anthony Gordon's next to him. And then Jurien Timber at right back gives them ability to shift into that back 3 when needed, letting Calafiori push forward. Work really well there. It's similar to what we saw Ben White do, but I think Timber does it better than Ben White. Midfield's super dynamic, full of energy, discipline, and with Zubimendi, there's a lot more technical quality. They can dominate possession, press high, and transition quickly. And then up top, when Bukayo Saka's fit, he's one of the best in the league. Victor Gyökeres, obviously the jury is still out on him. 3 goals and 5 appearances for Arsenal, 2 against Leeds. Let's see if he can do it against sort of bigger teams. Now I've said that, he probably will. But he looks a fantastic player as well. And then, obviously, we know all about Eberechi Eze. There's lots of flair, lots of pace in there. They're always a threat. And it might come down to how lethal Victor Gyökeres is around the box. And, well, Sporting Lisbon fans will tell you that's usually very. But how do the 2-11s stack up? Newcastle's probably more balanced, I would say. I think there's more of a quality around the whole pitch. While for me at Arsenal, I think you can clearly see what needs to be improved. In my opinion, Bruno and Tonali, especially for Newcastle, bring a ton of class, and they are very hard to get the better of, unless you're Barcelona. But yeah, starting off in goal, you've got David Raya versus Nick Pope. I think it's probably going to have to be David Raya. I think Pope is arguably a better shot stopper, but the gap in shot stopping between Pope and Raya is a lot smaller than the gap in distribution between the two, and Raya is significantly better on that area. So for me, David Raya edges it, although I definitely don't think Nick Pope is as bad as what some Newcastle fans say. Jurien Timber versus Kieran Trippier. I think a few years ago I would probably be tempted to go with Trippier, but I'm going to go Jurien Timber. I think he's an excellent defender, even better as a centre-back when he is called into that position. But he also has the quality on the ball to go forward. Trippier is better going forward, but Timber is so much better at the back. Botman and Burn versus Saliba and Gabriel. I think it's pretty obvious Saliba and Gabriel are arguably the best centre-back partnership in the league, which pains me to say. but they are two excellent centre-backs. Calafiori versus Livramento. I'm going to go for a draw simply because I don't think Calafiori has done well enough consistently to win, but I do think he probably has the edge on Livramento, but Livramento has probably done better for longer in the Premier League. And I don't think there's many fullbacks better than Tino Livramento at this point, whether it's right back or left back. So I'm calling it a draw, but I'm actually edging towards Tino Livramento. But I think at the end of the season, I'd maybe say Calafiori, if that makes sense. Mikel Merino versus Joe Linton. I'm giving a slight edge to Mikel Merino. Again, Big Joe, when he is on form, is a much better central midfielder, in my opinion. But Mikel Merino is much more consistent, and he will put in those 7 out of 10 performances for you almost every game, and he does tend to pop up with a lot more goals than Joe Linton does. So Merino gets the edge for me there. Rice versus Bruno Guimaraes. I am going to go Bruno G. I do like Rice. I defended him a lot on this pod when Kev said he was a back pass and sideways pass merchant. Come to think of it, it wasn't just Kev, it was pretty much everyone else. But I've just picked on Kev there. But I do think Bruno Guimaraes is better overall. I think when it comes to his passing range, his defensive qualities, I would say Rice has a better shot on him, without a doubt. But playing in that controlling midfielder role, I'm not really sure having a good shot on you is the best option there. Well, the best attribute, should I say. So for me, Bruno G edges it. Then for maybe, I'm going to go Martin Zubimendi versus Tonali. For me, it's Tonali. Zubimendi, watched a little bit of him at Sociedad. I do think he's a very, very good player. But Tonali, for me, is one of the best in the world in that defensive midfielder position, just sweeping up where people left off. If there's a loose ball in midfield, he latches onto it, runs a little bit, and then just puts a perfect pass every time. Certainly in the Premier League, I don't think I've seen Tonali have a bad game. So for me, Sandro wins that. Then we move on to the front three. Bukayo Saka versus Jacob Murphy. I don't think any Newcastle fan in their wildest dreams is going Jacob Murphy. Bukayo Saka, one of the best in the world when he's fit. Obviously, Murphy had a better season last season. But Saka almost matched him with about half the games. Not half the minutes, though. Murphy, very good minutes per game, but Saka, overall, much better player. On the other wing, Eberechi Eze versus Anthony Gordon. I'm going to go Eze again, simply because we're not seeing the best of Anthony Gordon right now. I think when in form, let's say 2 seasons ago, I think Anthony Gordon goes in easily. But Gordon, of the last 2 years, compared to Eze, you can see Eze is a special player, and I have to give it to him. Although I will say if it's Noni Madueke or Gabriel Martinelli, I'm giving it to Gordon every day and twice on Saturdays. So it's unfortunate that Arsenal have spent 60 million in that position to get Eze, but what a player. Then up front, Victor Gyökeres versus Nick Woltemade. I'm going to go they're basically 2 unknown commodities in the league at the minute. I am going to go Gyökeres for the singular reason of Woltemade isn't a striker, in my opinion. He has got the potential to be an absolutely extraordinary number 10. And I don't think I've seen a player 6'6" have a better one-touch pass than Big Nick. But we're looking at a striker. He isn't quite there. Gyökeres was the most clinical striker in Europe last season. So I've got Arsenal winning that one. And then overall, I think it's 7-3 with 1 tie. Of course, if we're doing a manager, I'm putting Eddie Howe over that Lego brick head every single day. If Arsenal signed Howe, they'd have a few trophies in a couple of months. And then instead of dreaming about finishing second again, Maybe not a couple of months, but a couple of years. So yeah, Arsenal for me are a significantly better team at the back and in attack. But when they play through midfield, where Newcastle are, in my opinion, a significantly better side, it makes it a bit of a toss-up because the way they play, they have to go through midfield. If Newcastle midfield can dominate the game, then Newcastle have every chance of winning. If Arsenal are to get anything, it's probably going to come from the new lads, Zubamendi, Eza, and Gyökeres. And if they're going to get anything, those three will be the difference makers. But what do you think? Who's got the better 11 right now? Are there any changes you would have made to my picks? If so, let me know. I'd love to hear your take, especially on some of the more debatable picks. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos on YouTube, and check us out on all of our social media because we got plenty more Newcastle content coming up as the season heats up. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep supporting the Magpies and us. Bye-bye.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.